What's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? It's MB the Life Coach, your favorite mental health and success coach. And y'all, let me tell y'all, these subscription boxes going crazy. Okay? Subscription boxes, real life going crazy. And like, if y'all not even, I don't know what y'all doing, okay? I really need y'all to go ahead and cop these subscription boxes. Meanwhile, in between while, our guest of the day is our interview. So you already know what we about to do. We finna go ahead and get it popping. Hello, how are you?
Hi.
We are good. I am good. Everybody good. Happy Wednesday, right? Happy Wednesday. So we appreciate being able to have you on the show tonight. So before we go too far into the interview, we do want to give you all the floor so you can introduce yourself and let the people know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, no problem. Sorry, you got it. So you might hear some things.
Yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit. We couldn't hear what you said.
Sorry in advance. We got a 2-year-old here playing with his iPad, so you might hear some things in the background.
Oh, you're perfectly fine.
You want to go first?
Sure. So my name is Handi Ruby Indigo, and
Okay.
I'm an artist. Excuse me. During my full time, I'm actually an art teacher. I had my background in the arts since I was a child. I have a master's in art education and a bachelor's degree in fine arts. So pretty much my life is surrounded in arts. But I'm also the co-host of Creative Habits Podcast.
Love it.
Yeah, my name is Phil. I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer over maybe 15 years now. So a co-host of Creative Habits Podcast, all around entrepreneur.
Love that. Love that. So you both are in some aspect of art, photography, and being an artist as well as an art teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the premise of the show. What was the inspiration behind the show, and what type of value or content can we expect from the show for those who don't know yet?
Well, we started the show August of 2020, right when the pandemic started.
Okay.
It was basically born out of boredom, but since we know a lot of artists between the two of us, we said, hey, why don't we just start a podcast by interviewing these artists, you
Love
know,
that.
different genres. We had photographers, painters, actors, musicians, all types of different people, and hopefully just to give like inspiration and like tell their stories to people who may want to pursue the same fields.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. That's really dope, actually. And so, but since then, what has been, I guess, maybe some of the highlights of what you've been able to do, like maybe one of your most memorable moments, as well as one of your growing points so far?
Um, well, basically being consistent, um, even though we do it for ourselves, we also have an audience that loves to hear the content. So we have to be consistent for them as well as ourselves, which, is, you got anything?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely the aspect of being artists ourselves. And I think the reason why we really wanted to have a podcast or a platform for artists is to make sure that we are encouraging each other and rooting for each other. Because I think that a lot of times we often have this imposter syndrome as artists where we kind of like are hard on ourselves and question, our gift and our abilities. So just having a platform where we can chat with people, very informal, like it's not anything where we make people like, answer these extravagant questions, but it's basically, where are you now? What are you doing right now? And what encourages you to move forward? I think a lot of us don't really know each other's stories.
Yeah.
So I feel like when we're scrolling through Instagram, we're scrolling through, these platforms and you see people doing such amazing things, you don't really see the behind the scenes. Part of the reason why we really want to have this podcast or have a platform for artists to just know the behind the scenes and then also get to see the fabulous things that people are doing as well. But we don't really necessarily see the behind the scenes as what artists go through. So that's kind of like, you know, what we love to share.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah.
People usually see the finished product and not know the process that goes behind creating, you know, different types of art. And that's important, you know. It's basically like giving a tutorial on people's lives and careers.
Absolutely. And I love that you all are giving such a niche focus on such a overlooked aspect of life, right? The main beauty points of life is the fact that you're able to find beauty in everything, right? There's an art to just about everything you do. And even in that consistency, being able to learn from other people's stories, being able to, you know, learn from your own transitions, you know, not just the physical representation of art, but the beauty of, you know, growth as a person, you know, inspiration, just the overall appreciation of the art of life. So I love that through your podcast, you're able to talk to people in the way that they kind of commemorate life itself, whether it's drawn art, music, you know, just their art and their way of expression. I definitely think that that itself is dope. So you all mentioned having a 2-year-old, right? we know the demands of children as parents, whether you work or are in entrepreneurship, and then you happen to pick up a selfless service of podcasting to highlight other people. Let's talk about the balance of parenting and entrepreneurship.
Great question. You want to go first?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, you know, especially with the 2-year-old and just kids in general. Kids are very I don't want to say needy, but they need your attention. You know what I mean? Like just waiting until he goes to sleep, you know what I mean? Or your child goes to sleep, or taking that 5 or 10 minutes just to create a nap. Any time you can get to great thing.
Definitely. And I think that what's worked for us as entrepreneurs and doing the podcast is that we take turns. So childcare, like one of us will do the interview, the other one will be with the baby. So just trying to find the balance. We both have, you know, different things that we do in our artistry. Dad's a photographer. I'm a painter, but I also do a lot of other stuff as well. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out ways to keep them engaged, but also be able to do what we want. But we do a great job of balancing and making sure that we take turns.
Absolutely. And so one of the other beautiful things about us being able to highlight you both is the fact that there's unity here, right? Don't often get to see couples who do things together that require you both to grow in the beauty of life as well as be able to give back to others. So let's talk about how that's been able to help you all bond. A lot of relationships, we know, aside from finances, people don't have things in common, right? They go through emotions of life and don't really find ways to find beauty in a relationship while also giving each other room to grow still. So with that kind of being, or with this kind of being a aspect of an outward dynamic of the beauty in your relationship, let's talk about the importance of growing together and allowing each other to have space to grow in relationships.
Yeah, I think it's important to make time for yourself, a little bit of self-love. You know what I mean? Because if you're constantly running and running and running and helping this person out, and going back home, and you're giving so much of yourself away, you won't have enough to give your partner. You know? So you have to take a little time out, whether it's an hour. Personal example, I wake up early in the morning and I work out. You know, take that hour to myself just to collect my thoughts so I can have the bandwidth and enough energy for my partner and my child, and you know, regular social situations. So just take time out for yourself so you can be 100% for your partner and whatever you do.
Definitely. And so in addition to that, it's like answering your question as far as like how we figured out out that schedule where we're, you know, finding time for each other. The podcast is one, you know. We're both artists, so we do very different things. So sometimes it's like, as well as artists, like we also need our corners, our space to work. So the podcast is one. We also find times during the evening to bond, as far as if it's watching a movie or something. So we kind of like the space, but we also want to figure out, you know, how to maintain or keep, you know, the spark going. It's just finding things that we can do with each other, but another thing is always, you know, finding time for ourselves as well.
Absolutely. And that's the important part. You both still give each other space to be individuals. You found a way to bond collectively through your, you know, shared interest in art. And then you found a way to be able to be a selfless service in the process. One of the other things that I would love for us to tap into is the aspect of entrepreneurship from a male and female perspective who are in business together that also look like us, right? Most times you have a man in business. Men, you know, they carry that dominance, and most times it's associated with the negotiation skills and, you know, the hard business aspect, you know, carrying the operations. And most times the woman is the one that's like, okay, let's go back. What needs to be done foundationally to keep everything together? And to be able to talk to you both, we're kind of able to hear the male perspective of the stereotypes in business, the female perspective of stereotypes in business, but also how you both support each other through both the positive and negative stereotypes that come with it.
I think one of my main goals is, you know, just to hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
We started something that's grown, and it's not just for us anymore. It's for our listeners. It's for our audience. It's for the people who love to listen to us every week. You know, from a business perspective, things that I'm not good at, she's really excellent at. You know what I mean?
And vice versa.
So it's like a balance there. It's like a seamless balance that we've created, and this ecosystem is perfect for us. You know what I mean? Whether it's her reaching out to artists, setting up schedules, me coming up with different questions for the artists, or, you know, different topics for our in between podcasts. It's just, you know, it's a balance that we keep together, and it works out.
Question. It's a really awesome question. And as far as my perspective, I think how we work, a lot of the times I was surprised because I feel like, you know, with me being the painter or whatever, I would be the most creative, but I'm more of the analytical person. So I keep track of like our schedule, who we're going to have on the podcast most of the time. And then, you know, just making sure that there's no typos or, you know, just like kind of the grammatical errors and all of that stuff. But he's more inclined into designing, you know, the graphics and editing the podcast. So we try and figure out what our strengths are as far as what we already are good at and talented at, and then just kind of incorporate that when we're working together. But as far as the stereotypes, I couldn't really think of any, but I think perhaps the idea that it is kind of, we're kind of made to think that it is impossible to have a duo kind of team when we're thinking about the topic of entrepreneurship. I think that just knowing if you can work well together, and even if you can't, if you're able to communicate your needs, if you're able to communicate your ideas, it is possible. So I think that
there have been some challenges, but like she said, communication is important. You know,
right.
Knowing to step back and like, okay, I need your opinion on this, or I need your help on this, or I don't like when you did this, so can you switch it up a little bit? It helps us. It helps the both of us, you know, and it works. It worked with our relationship as well, like the business aspect, learning how to communicate.
Transfers
to the relationship too.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hear that as well in our podcast, where we have, outside of the artist interviews, we do have just very regular conversations on the podcast. Some like extreme, or some that are conspiracy theory stories, but we also talk a lot about our relationship challenges. So we'll have a conversation about something, but we would share that conversation on the podcast. Because we know nothing's perfect, so we also have that conversation as well on the podcast. So just like we hear, the ins and outs of the artist, we also kind of share the ins and outs of our relationships, and like, the things we need to work on or the things that we want to kind of fix and communicate.
That's cool. And I love that. Like, you're using this as your personal way of bonding and more than just business. A lot of people, especially if they go into business with their spouse, get so caught up on business that it becomes your business partner solely, and you forget to love each other romantically, intimately, and care about the other person as a person along the way. So what are some pieces of advice that you would give couples, whether in business or not, on how they can make sure that they maintain the intimate, that part of their relationship to continue to grow romantically?
Communication, and knowing when to set time out for each other, because we often get caught up in the wake wash work routine. We often, forget about ourselves. So just setting that time out for each other, occasionally going out, or, just little stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say also that on that topic, I think just really communication is one, but I think another thing is just to not forget your friendship. We were friends first before anything. So I always have to constantly remind myself, if we have disagreements, that this is my friend, like it's something that we can work through and it'll be fine. So just reminding yourself, if you are in a business or thinking about being in business with your partner, always remember that that's your friend. You have agreement on this topic or this problem, but it's not a problem between you two.
Exactly. It's me and you versus the problem, not me.
And learning how to listen. You know what I mean? Communication is important, but learning how to listen, that's like the other half of it. You gotta know how to listen.
That's dope. So just transitioning back into the realm of the podcast, what has been one of the most, I guess, memorable interviews that you all have been able to do, or one of the funniest moments, or one of your favorite interviews? Just kind of walk us through what that moment was for you, whether it was the same one or different. We just want to know what that experience was like.
It's hard because we've had some really amazing people on this podcast, and not only just from the United States, but we've hit almost every continent.
Wow.
And I mean, there's been so many amazing ones. I have to really think. But because we've been switching and taking turns, I think my favorite interview that Phil did was yesterday night. And then yesterday night as a visual artist. And I think he did the Hulu, the recently Hulu cover for Atlanta.
Yeah, for Atlanta.
So we had a chance to interview him, and that was an amazing interview. Very relaxed guy, but it's just like knowing who he was when we were able to meet him, and then up until now, like just being able to hear and think about what he deems as art, or what he thinks of as an artist, was really cool. We interviewed my mother. We interviewed his grandfather. So there's just been so many amazing moments. So I can't really pinpoint one. I would say that they're all unique in their own way.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of my favorites were one of the first interviews that we've done with my high school teacher, my theater teacher. And just talking with her, having a conversation with her, and showing how much I've grown as a person, as a man. And I don't know, it was just a great conversation that we had between the both of us. And we've interviewed so many great people. Stephanie Martin, that was on the Get Down from Netflix.
Jabari Jefferson, visual artist.
Like so many really dope people. The whole concept of the podcast was to bring everyone together. Whether it's something similar to like the Harlem Renaissance.
Got it.
So instead of everyone going to New York and just conversating and just bouncing ideas off each other, everyone can come together on this, this internet platform
in our new world.
In our new world, and just have conversations and just
Yeah.
learn from each other. That was the whole point of starting the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. So we are coming up on our time shortly, but before we get out of here, one of the last questions that we do want to ask before we give you the floor for your portion of our benediction is, what is something that you all would want the world to know about you?
Great question. You want to go first, or?
What is something I want the world to know about me? I'm not necessarily me. This is what I want everyone to know about themselves. Everything we see around us was started and created in the mind first. So if you want to create something, if you want to start a business, if you want to be an artist, if you want to be whatever, start it in the mind first and create those affirmations. And sooner or later, you can manifest that idea and that dream. You know what I mean?
That's dope. That's dope.
And for myself, I think that you're never going to be ready. So just do it. I think that's part of my hesitation. I'm grateful for him because I'm more of a thinker and not a doer, and he's a doer. So just having, that sense of support to know that learning from him, like, just do it. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter like how it is so far. If you look back at our old Creative Habits podcast flyers and the way that we were promoting, it was really horrible, and it did not look, hard. But you're never going to be ready, and it's just like you have to keep practicing until you get that sense of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
That perfect is not even something that one can attain. You're always going to keep improving. So I think that's just one thing that I would like to leave with you guys.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that I learned through, the military and, other disciplines that I've been able to participate in growing up was that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect execution. Whatever that version of perfect is, it then becomes muscle memory, and you're allowing yourself to see where you need to grow so that you can continue that perfect practice and that discipline to be able to continue to grow. So I love that you both mentioned the aspect of being a thinker. A thinker is important, but also being a doer is important. And then also knowing that everything starts as a thought. It starts in your mind. And one of the biggest quotes that I learned to live by, I heard Steve Harvey mention it in the video, but what he said was, you cannot imagine or think of anything that you cannot do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
That's facts.
So when you think about life from that perspective, whatever ideas that you have, whatever goals that you have, regardless to how big or, how far they may seem, especially within your capabilities, you may not be capable at the time, but you're imagining that because that's the level of potential that you are able to reach. That's the level of potential that's inside of you to be able to create something tangible. And whether you start it and put it in a position where other people can continue it and build on it, those are your ideas, and it's almost your responsibility to put that level of greatness into the world.
Facts. Facts.
I definitely appreciate you all for sharing that. One of the things that we would like to give you the floor to do before, we all get out of here, is for you to let the people know what they can expect from you in the very near future, and to also let them know where they can find you. And it's your floor, your world. Do what you got to do.
So, on my personal photography, that's Philip Anthony Portraits. .com or Philip Anthony Portraits on Instagram, Philip with 2 L's. You can catch our podcast on Creative Habits Podcast on all platforms.
Yes, please follow. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please feel free to reach out. We're, pretty chill people. We welcome everyone.
Your Instagram?
Yes, so my Instagram is Handi Ruby, HANDIRU, B for Bob, V for Victor, I.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, they'll find it on there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you allowing us to highlight you here on our platform. Again, we like to highlight Black excellence in the, aspect of both business for those who are starting up and looking to grow, as well as those creatives who have something to say. You have a piece of art. You're doing something that the world is responsible for appreciating. There's someone and there's a place for everything that we have to do in the world. So we appreciate you for sharing your art with us, and we also appreciate you for allowing us to highlight your platform that you've built for artists and creatives. With that said, if everybody that's watching, if you don't have the app already, definitely make sure you download the app. And if you have a Black-owned business or start a Black-owned business, you want to click the link in our bio because you want to connect with us. But with that said, we do want to give you all back the rest of your evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. If there's ever anything that we can do here at the Black American Market to better support you, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor. We appreciate it.
You are so very welcome. Have a great rest of your evening.